In the previous video, I was basically talking about the manifestation of a higher principle in this world and how this is or could be brought about using living thought. So the principle comes down from, for the sake of argument, a higher world, and it comes into this world and is somehow expressed in terms of what is already here to a very large extent. There is a collision because the world is as it is and the principle perhaps isn't quite at home here, shall we say. That's one way of putting it. So we naturally, or it, encounters opposition. So looking, I think practically every religion has this notion of the Christian religion calls it the fall, or there is also, this is associated with Lucifer and his attempt to form his own kingdom within the creation. So when the principle hits this world, it's falling into a sort of darkness. In this world there are sort of realities that will inhibit the full expression of a higher principle. There will be conditions attached. It is like the saying that the devil is in the detail, that something may sound wonderful, and often, you find this in politics and everything. You have a really good idea, or somebody says some high-sounding words, and you say, oh, well, that sounds all very wonderful, but then when you actually have to bring it into real manifestation, then you find out all the problems and the unintended consequences and possibly even the possible evils of it. So it's not something that just sort of comes in and there is light and that's that. There is always the opposing forces, and the opposing forces give it a they're not, I'm not sure that they're always a bad thing. We can't necessarily judge good and evil. It's not obvious all the time, particularly when you're talking about actions, because seemingly destructive or evil actions may in fact have good consequences in the longer term. So it's never quite that simple. This is the complexity of it. And it's why we have a brain, basically, or why we have a mind. We develop ourselves, in a sense, by fighting against it, or by trying to reach an understanding of it. So, okay, Steiner expresses this in two ways. I just saw a kingfish across the river. He speaks of Ahriman and Lucifer. Ahriman is the equivalent of Satan, and Lucifer is a different being. Ahriman is very much the material world and the mechanical world, the world of systems. Lucifer, as I understand it, is the world of unrealistic ambitions, if you know the story of Icarus and his waxen wings, that's an example of flying, trying to be too idealistic in a way, of flying too high and basically getting your wings burnt and falling back to earth. So there are two forces acting on us, or at least those are the two opposing forces, and we are obliged, or we are ideally aiming to achieve the balance in the middle. And Steiner characterizes this as Christ. So I'm not wishing to say anything about the historical and biblical version of Christ and the Christian message. I'm just, oh God, this is certainly getting very difficult. I hadn't intended to go anywhere near this deep. One of Christ's sayings in the Bible, as I remember, is that you may deny me, but basically if you deny the Holy Spirit, then you're lost, there's no hope. So you may not necessarily be a Christian in the formal sense of the word, but sorry, I just hear footsteps around. You may well be Christian to the extent that you accept Spirit, or the Holy Spirit, however you want to call it. And we're looking at the mystical aspect of Christ, the Christ within. It's all in the Bible. So if you want to find out more, open your mind and go and have a look. I'm not going to say specifically what I believe here, but you have the two forces which are pulling in different directions, but they're working together because they're basically both leading you away from the middle, which is what you might call where you truly want to be. We're looking at, most people will have heard the idea of the good, the beautiful and the true. So this is very much a matter of expression. Is it good? Is it beautiful? Is it true? As I've mentioned, goodness can be difficult to discern, because quite often something which at first appears evil can turn out in the end to be good. The beautiful, you might argue, is often a matter of opinion. It's something that transcends logic. It is a sense of taste or of an aesthetic ability. This is associated with the third eye. It's not a strictly logical thing, it's a sense of aesthetics. And the true, of course, once again, that's something that needs discernment to discover, very much like the good. In expressing the true, there can be considerable difficulties and misunderstandings. As Pilate said to Jesus, "What is truth?" So, okay, we go back to this discussion on basically things brought from the higher world coming into this world and then being expressed, often imperfectly expressed, in fact probably always imperfectly expressed, but then we're always trying to improve that. Quite a bit of rustling going on in the hedgerow, though I'm out here in, I wouldn't say the middle of nowhere, but I haven't seen anyone for quite a while. So it's not a simple situation. It's a form of foolishness to think that there are simple solutions to everything. The saying "the devil is in the detail" is a very wise saying, because your simple solution could turn out to be the worst thing that ever happened. I'm sorry if this has become a rather confused, or once again, it's living thought. I've started talking to this camera and we've ended up somewhere I wasn't really trying to go. But at the same time, it's probably covered some quite interesting ground. There's certainly things in there which the viewer may wish to consider. They may arrive at a completely different point of view, may think I'm talking absolute rubbish, but I could say, well, you try this, you try, perhaps that's a good use of technology. Get your camera out, have a chat with yourself, and see where you go. Thanks for watching.